Hello and welcome to the Alula webinar. My name is Kevin Hoffman and I am the Content Marketing Manager for Alula. Today we will be talking about the Connect family, a complete security, video, and home automation platform. On the agenda, first we're going to do some introductions. Then we're going to talk about that Connect Plus platform. We'll look at Connect Plus under the hood. We'll introduce you to the latest member of the Connect family, BatConnect. Then we'll talk about the Slimline touchpad. We'll look at cameras and video. We'll take a look at BatConnect under the hood. And then we'll talk about AlulaConnect, our new partner portal that makes your job easier than ever. First, I'd like to introduce you to my co-presenter, Chris Bartholomew, a sales engineer at Alula. He has 20 years of security industry experience. He's worked for ITI, GE Security, UTC Fire and Security, and DMP. He joined Alula in September 2019, and he is skilled in sales, management, troubleshooting, and training. Welcome to the webinar, Chris.
Thank you, Kevin. Happy to be with you today.
Chris, before we get started, could you tell us a little bit about Alula?
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. The term Alula, the name Alula, might be not too familiar for a lot of the folks out on the call today, but you've probably heard of, I would imagine, either IP Datatel or Resolution products. Alula was actually the merging and the creation of these two companies brought together. So even though the name is fairly new and the Alula brand itself is about 2 years old, actually there's quite a bit of experience, going back about the last 12 years. IP Datatel, traditionally been a leading network and communication provider, IP-based, cellular radios, whereas Resolution products, a lot of your translators that you may have used, sensors, are compatibles, and actually a lot of the engineering talent at Alula was one of the first, those folks were the first ones to come out with the Simon panel, the Concord panel, the Networks panel. So there's actually quite a bit of history involved with the Alula brand and the Alula name, but now we are one big happy family.
That's right, Chris, and one of the things that merger provides is a vertically integrated platform, and that changes the way you can do business with us. So, Chris, why don't you talk about the benefits of that?
Yeah, traditionally I think a lot of people have looked at Alula, looked at Resolution products and IP Datatel as solving a problem. We've got this old panel out there, we need a communicator for it. We've always done that and we're going to continue to do that, but we want you to also take a look at some of the new things we've had. Our Connect Plus panel now is a fully functioning residential, small to mid-size commercial application. So we're not just about solving problems anymore. Those traditional problems where you needed to sell radio, you needed a compatible sensor. We do have a full line of home automation, video, our new Connect Plus panel. So, glad you're on the call today to see some of the new and exciting things that we have.
Yeah, it's really interesting too. With the launch of BatConnect, we now have a solution for takeovers as well as new installs, but they both take you to the same place, which is that Alula Interactive Services platform, which is security, video, and automation all seamlessly blended together. So it's a really exciting time for the company and for our partners. Looking at the platform that I just described, Chris, why don't you talk about what makes it different?
Yeah, Kevin, you'd mentioned the Connect Plus panel and the BatConnect. Whatever product you're using, the end user experience is going to be the same for the customer. Whether it's the app, whether it's the touch screen, it's going to look almost exactly the same, whether it be a Bat product or the Connect Plus product. So really, you train the customer on the app, they already know how to use the touch screen and vice versa. Okay? We have multi-path connectivity. We're always going to lead with IP, not that you have to use IP first, but it is fastest and it is the least expensive method to transmit that information. So we have network, we have cellular, we have Wi-Fi, all at lightning fast speed. Okay. Those hardwired keypads that you have hanging on the wall, those are slowly becoming a thing of the past. I heard a comment this morning. One of our dealers was mentioning that nobody's using a hardwired keypad anymore. It's a touchscreen or it's the app. And we wholeheartedly agree with that. We're able to tie in security, automation, and video all into one user interface. With a lot of our competitors, We're using one app for security, then we're bouncing around for another app for video, and possibly home automation, we're going to another app. That's all tied seamlessly with our BAT Connect, with our Connect Plus, all into one touchscreen interface, all into one app. So we've got security, automation, and video, all integrated very tightly, very nicely.
Yeah, and that great app experience is it makes it really sticky for your end user with that video and automation on board. That means that customer is going to stay with you longer. It's going to reduce the attrition, and it's going to increase your overall RMR for the lifetime of that service contract. So that brings us to the Connect Plus platform. It's really an ecosystem of a bunch of different products. You can see the doorbell camera featured prominently there. Chris, why don't you walk us through the entire platform?
Yeah, so the Connect Plus been around for quite a few years, actually. Some of the folks that have been with Alula/Resolution/IP Datatel might have heard of this panel before as the Helix panel. Since the merger, we've kind of rebranded the name, and now it's a Connect Plus panel. So for those that have worked with Helix, it's just basically a different name, and we've upgraded a couple of things. But the panel has been out there for a while. It is our, like I said, residential, small to mid-sized commercial panel that, as we mentioned before, able to integrate the touchscreen, the integrated app, video, home automation, as well as your intrusion needs all in one.
And that brings us to some of the value props for the Connect Plus, some of the things that make it a really revolutionary hub that can be core to your business. So let's just take us through a little bit of what makes this product special.
Yeah, let's dive a little deeper, Kevin. So right out of the bat, you've got a 96-zone panel that can either do hardwire or wireless. Okay, a lot of people look at the Connect Plus and they go, oh, it's just it's strictly a wireless panel. Not true at all. We can add translators that can give you up to, if you wanted to go that high, you could go 96 hardwired zones. So it is a combo hardwire wireless system. It's a modern design. If you look at the picture here, it looks like a router. It really doesn't look like a security system. So the idea here is put the Connect Plus where it's easiest, not only for the end user, but probably more importantly for the installer. Because once it's up and running, really the end user does not need to go and have any interaction with the control panel itself with the Connect Plus. It's really ease of installation for the installer. So we try to put it near where an internet connection is, because we're always going to try to lead with IP. And as we'll see here shortly when we take a tour of the panel, you have that IP connection built in. Okay. One of the great things about the Connect Plus and the way it was designed was really for speed of install. So you can take a person not familiar with the industry, and put the Connect Plus in front of them. Probably will take them maybe on their first install, maybe a half an hour. You've been in the industry for a while, you kind of understand the intrusion side of things. You can get this panel up and running within probably 10 minutes. Very fast, very simple. Very flexible, comes with a backup battery. We're going to take a look at all the optional things that you can add to the Connect Plus, but it was built with a modular design. So simply put, if you don't want it, you don't have to pay for it, which is a little bit different from the way our competitors can do it. Okay? We're going to talk about the speed of the network coming up, but it is blazing fast. Most of the commands that are sent to and from the Connect Plus, about 30 milliseconds. And that's even on cellular, too. So it is lightning fast even on cell. It's going to be just a little bit quicker on network, but it is blazing fast. Simple snap-in devices such as Z-Wave to give you your home automation. Like we said before, it is a modular design. And as we take a tour of the panel here coming up, you'll see that if you want it, you can add it. If you don't want it, you don't have to purchase it.
Yeah, and I just want to add my own personal experience to attest to what you're saying there. I set up a Connect Plus in my house in less than half an hour. I snapped in I snapped in a Z-Wave module, snapped in those boards myself. It's super, super easy. Don't get confused by those green circuit boards. We're not working on a computer here, folks. It's if you can snap up a jacket, you can snap those cards into place. So let's move to this next slide and talk about the interface and how it looks the same on both the touchpad and on your cell phone, and why that's important.
Right. A lot of folks on the call today have probably used a lot of some of the other products that are out there in the industry, and you are probably used to having a touchscreen experience that looks nothing like the customer's app experience. So that's not the way it works at Alula. Like I said before, once you know how to do the app, you already know how to do the touchscreen and vice versa. It really is a unified experience between the app and the touchscreen. Right? So we really just have to train the end user one time. And it really is it's simple, it's at-a-glance look. So this training of the end user really isn't much training at all. Okay? It is truly at-a-glance access for key information. So no longer do I have to dig and dive deep on a fixed English keypad or even an alpha keypad to get into a menu to see what's open, how to bypass something. Really, you just look right at the touchscreen, look right at the app. And we have a customizable look as well to both the app and the touchscreen. For instance, you may interface with the system a little bit differently than your wife does. Maybe you're in the man cave a lot, and out in the man cave you got some Z-Wave automation devices. Maybe you got some beer lights on a timer that you want to turn on. Maybe you want access to a gun safe, liquor cabinet. You don't want the kids to have access to that. Your user interface, your app interface, your touchscreen interface is customizable by user. Maybe I want to look at it outside camera that my wife really doesn't care to look at. Well, my app experience, like I said, can be customized differently from everybody else in the home that has the app. So a lot of flexibility with both the app and the touchscreen.
And Chris, you having the same interface across the cell phone and the touchpad is such it's so obviously a better experience for the end user. Why aren't other companies able to do this the way Alula is? Yeah,
it's a pretty simple answer. Is they don't own everything. Okay, so we own the network, we own the panel, we own the app. Not to pick on anyone, but with Honeywell is not alarm.com and vice versa. And GE/UTC is not alarm.com. So there's a lot of partners and a lot of relationships involved with our competitors, so it's almost impossible for them to have that unified app versus panel experience. With Alula, we own everything. Okay? Like I said, we have the app, we have the network, and we have the panel all tied seamlessly together. That's how we're able to do that.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing that allows us to do is if there's something going wrong, we're basically troubleshooting the entire sequence, and so we're responsible, whether it's the sensor, whether it's the app, whether it's the hub, we're going to fix the problem, as opposed to some of these other groups that are in partnerships where they're pointing at other parts of the system and saying it's somebody else's problem.
Exactly. You're not going to have to call Honeywell and wait on hold for them to tell you that it's not our problem. You need to call alarm.com tech support. Call Alula tech support and we'll take care of everything for you in one phone call.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than waiting on, going through multiple phone trees and waiting on hold, only to have someone tell you that you have to do that all again with some other company, which will probably give you the same bum's rush. So call 1-888-88-ALULA, and you will get all of your problems solved. Enough about that. Let's move on to, we talked about that modularity. Let's really look at what it means. It really means freedom for the dealer to go to market the way they want and to control their expenses based on their kind of market conditions, right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. You're not pigeonholed into buying Z-Wave if you don't want it. You don't have to buy the cellular. You don't have to go with IP. You have flexibility here. So kind of a 10,000-foot overview, and we'll dive deep here on the next slide. But like I said, we are IP first, not that you have to. If you wanted to go sell primary, you could. Okay? But you're always going to have that Ethernet connection built in. Okay? If you want to add Wi-Fi, you can. If you want to add cellular, you can. If you want to add Z-Wave, you can as well. Okay? So like we said, our competitors, a lot of times, whether you want the Z-Wave, the IP, or the cellular, or the Wi-Fi, you're paying for it. Okay? So it is up to you. So on the next slide, we'll dig a little deeper and we'll talk about the modularity and what card goes where and what cards we have for you.
Yeah, and the other side of that, Chris, is that you don't have to decide at the point of purchase for the rest of the device's lifespan on what its capabilities are going to be. So, for example, you can install a Connect Plus panel that just has the cellular and IP, and then if that customer a year later, maybe their neighborhood got some automated lights and an automated thermostat, and they say, why can't I have that? Well, you could say, yeah, let me just put this Z-Wave card in here, and we're instantly going to upgrade your system, and now you're going to have home automation too. A lot of panels on the market. What you buy is what you get, and you can't change it afterwards, right?
Exactly. Great point.
Cool. You mentioned it. Let's look at the Connect Plus panel, the architecture inside. Might look a little complicated, but Chris, if you walk us through, around the clock base and tell us what each of these pieces are.
Yeah, let's just go numerically 1 to 7, starting in the upper left. So you've actually got 3 slots on the Connect Plus. If you look kind of close, you'll see module slot 1 underneath the blue number 1. Typically, this is where you put your cell card if you're going to use one. Okay, so cell card will slap into slot number 1. Slot number 2, typically what we see this used for is if the customer wants the touchscreen experience. What we actually do, I think, is kind of unique, is we create a locked-down Wi-Fi network. So we have a separate Wi-Fi card just for the touchscreen or touchscreens, because you can use up to 4 of them. The reason we do this is, a lot of folks on the call today probably have run into a situation where a customer changes their router, or one of the kids gets in there, changes the password, and you talk to the homeowner, and they go, I have no idea what the password is. Well, if that were to happen, typically that's going to bring down your security system. It's going to bring down a touchscreen if it's a Wi-Fi touchscreen until you can figure out that password, or like I said, if they change the router. So we lock it down where our touchscreen only talks to our Wi-Fi card and nothing else can be on that Wi-Fi network. Customer can't get on it. We hide the password from them. So it's just for the touchscreen. So our touchscreens communicate via Wi-Fi. Okay. We've also got another Wi-Fi card that you could use. Typically, we don't see this used too often, but if you couldn't get an Ethernet connection to the panel, and we'll talk about this in more detail here in a little bit when we talk about point number 7, but let's say you couldn't get an Ethernet cable to it, do we have an option to go Wi-Fi for the app and for the central station? Yes, we do. That would be a different Wi-Fi card. But like I said earlier, it's always best if you can get that Ethernet connection. We don't have to worry about passwords. We don't have to worry about range issues. And with the modular design and also, typically because you're not slapping the Connect Plus on the wall, you could. We do have mounting holes for it. But really, like I said earlier, it's where it's most convenient for you to put the panel. And really for you, that's the installer. So in other words, get it near where there's an Ethernet connection, right? But we do have the option of that Wi-Fi card too. All right. Location 3, if you look top right corner, you'll see a couple of gold antennas coming out of the top of the panel. That is for our Cryptics receiver, for our Cryptic sensors. So we operate on 433 megahertz, and it is encrypted wireless. We talked earlier about we have a 96-zone panel. You could go 96 zones all wireless. That is the receiver that would gather and we would use for our Cryptics devices, our Cryptics wireless 433 megahertz. Okay. Point number 4, lower right corner, says module slot 3. 2 options here for you. We've got a Z-Wave card if we want to do the home automation, or another great feature of the Connect Plus panel is the ability to use a translator card. A lot of folks on the call may have used our translator card for a standalone install. Let's say in the past that you wanted to use let's say you had an existing application and they had DSC wireless, but you had a Honeywell panel. You could put our translator module as the go-between. So there's a couple dials on our standalone translator, and you say, okay, I want to listen to, and you set the dial, I want to listen to DSC, and I want to send that to a Honeywell panel. Great product, still have it, been around for years. What we did is basically take that same idea and we put it on a card now that can go into the Connect Plus. So the idea here is, okay, we're doing a takeover of a Simon panel. 319.5 megahertz from UTC Interlogics. All right, they've got 50 wireless zones there. Do you need to purchase 50 new wireless devices from us? No. In programming, we say, okay, translator card, listen for 319.5. So you can reuse those wireless sensors in a takeover situation. So module slot 3, you've got a Z-Wave card by itself, or we have the option for a Z-Wave / translator card. Number 5, Bluetooth. If you look lower right corner, you'll see two antennas sticking out, one sideways and one going down. We have a Bluetooth radio built in, and a couple uses for the Bluetooth radio. Okay, we have an installer app for an iPhone or an iOS device. Probably the simplest way to program this panel is if you had an iOS device, is we make a Bluetooth connection with your phone, and the installer app walks you through learning in your zones, putting your delay times in, reporting format, all that can be done over your smartphone if it's an iOS device, okay, with the Bluetooth connection. The other things we use the Bluetooth radio for is we have a Bluetooth siren as well. We've got our own 433 megahertz sirens, but we've also got a Bluetooth siren. We've also got a keypad that can operate on Bluetooth as well. So quite a few things that you could use the Bluetooth for, but one of the main things we see is that at the installation phase, you just hook up with your smartphone, take a picture of the device, and we learn in the sensors, the device being our wireless 433 megahertz Cryptix wireless. All right, bottom portion of the panel, number 6 is our 24-hour UL backup battery. Okay, so it comes with backup battery. Moving over to port number 7, we talked about the Ethernet. And like I said before, it's not necessary that you go Ethernet primary, but like we said before, it's always fastest and it's always cheapest to go Ethernet. Okay. Remember, we do have the cellular and we do have the Wi-Fi option as well, but primarily we see folks leading with Ethernet. All right, a little bit harder to see right next to the number 8 in blue there. There's just that's a little button on the side of the Connect Plus. We use this for a number of different things. Okay, probably the primary use would be, okay, let's say you didn't have your smartphone with you and you wanted to program the Connect Plus. How do we learn the sensors in? There's actually 3 ways to learn the devices in. Okay. In a perfect world, you have your iOS device, you have your smartphone, you use the app, you take a picture of the barcode, it learns in everything. All right, let's say I didn't have cell coverage, I don't have a smartphone, not a big deal. I can press that button and it puts the panel in what we call enroll mode. And at this point, you'll see the LED lights start to flash. And now, typically, it depends on what the device is, but it's either I press the tamper or I pull the little tab away, which keeps the batteries from contacting the terminal. Just pull the tab, you'll hear a confirmation beep from the panel, and you've learned your device in. Quick, easy enrollment procedure. The other things you could use the enrollment button for would be learning in our Wi-Fi touchscreens and something like a Bluetooth siren. Okay, so we do have on-site enrollment of our devices as well. I mentioned there's a third option that you could do for programming the panel. And on our AlulaConnect website, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, I can programming everything from the AlulaConnect website also. So you may have heard me keep saying if I have an iOS device, you might be going, well, I have an Android device. Not a big deal. On an Android, if I were on site, simply just open up our web browser from your phone on an Android, and it scales down very nice for an Android device and an iOS as well. But instead of using the app, just go to the web browser and learn in everything.
Great overview, Chris. Thanks so much. Moving on, let's look at Cat M1. Chris, can you give us a little of the background on the science on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're talking about here is our cell radio. Okay, we talked about slot 1 on the Connect Plus. I can put a cell radio in there. So the category M1 radio is fairly new to the industry. We're actually one of the first ones that have come out with the category M1 cellular. Now, what's the difference between 3G, 4G, Cat M1, this, that, and the other thing? Typically, the 3G, 4G bandwidth, now everybody in the security industry has used that and is currently using that. And that could be used for something like, streaming a movie on Netflix. Are we doing that in the security industry? No, we're not. but the bandwidth capability is there to do that. Our panels don't need that, but we do have that wide bandwidth, in the security industry as a whole. The problem with that wide bandwidth is it doesn't give you the kind of range that you get with category M1. It's a tighter bandwidth because on that M1 frequency, you don't need to, but you couldn't stream a Netflix movie. So that generally is the IoT bandwidth, the category M1, for things like security systems that don't need a wide bandwidth because we're not streaming Netflix. We're just sending small bursts of data. So we've got a tighter, narrower bandwidth, and what that means for you is basically better range, and it's faster. Okay? So it is actually the M1. It's 4G/5G. So 5G is not everywhere. It's in a few select places. It's going to start to pop here as the year unfolds. The card will automatically switch back and forth as needed to a 4G or 5G. Okay, so think faster, think better range. So a win-win for everybody. So we have the M1 in the Connect Plus, and it's also available on our Bat Connect product, which we'll hit here in a little bit. The other great thing about the category M1, because it's that tighter frequency, we don't need a lot of current to power that. Now on the Connect Plus, it's powered off the panel. It's kind of a non-issue. But on our Bat Connect, this is where it becomes more of a factor on our takeover radio. So what this basically means is you're probably never going to have to use a power supply with this guy on the Bat Connect. It only draws 100 milliamp, about as much as a hardwired keypad would draw. Okay, so we're setting you up as really being sunset proof because we're stretched out all the way into the 5G realm. So hopefully we won't have to have this conversation. We're coming up on a sunset here real quick, but hopefully not for at least another 10, 15, 20 years with the M1 radio and beyond.
Yeah, that's what's really exciting about it for me is it gets us out of that crazy loop where every 5 or 7 years we're having to revisit old customers and replace their radios because the cellular companies have decided to repurpose that bandwidth. We're seeing that happening now with 3G and CDMA, and you don't want to have to do it again. Now, I will say that we've got a great sunset program here at Alula. You should definitely check out alula.net/sunset. We've got some great rebates up to $50 for every communicator that you replace that is vulnerable to this sunset issue. And if you replace it with one of our products that has a Cat M1 on board, you're really solving the sunset issue for the long term, and you're not going to have to mess with it again. So a little plug there. Check out our sunset program, and really excited that Cat M1 has come along to finally fix an issue this industry has dealt with for over 15 years since we switched from plain old telephone to cellular service. So it's a good time to be in the industry. Speaking of which, let's talk about our new product, Bat Connect.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. A great segue talking about the sunset. This is typically where the Bat Connect is going to shine. Is we have this looming sunset issue coming up here. But don't forget, it could be as simple as they had a landline on that old legacy system, and now they've either gotten rid of the landline. I mean, face it. How many people are still using a landline? I realize they're out there, but they're going away. Or they've switched the landline from plain old POTS over to Comcast or CenturyLink or whoever your cable provider is. They've gone voice over IP. So yeah, sunset, but don't forget there's other uses where I might need to make that legacy system still communicate. So that Connect 10,000-foot overview, we're able to immediately upgrade that old Honeywell DSC GE system. Maybe the system works fine. Customer's comfortable with it. Maybe it's a Vista panel, Vista 15. They've had it for years. It works great. Customer's comfortable with it. They don't want to pay any money, or we want to give them a little amount as possible to get in there and swap them out and get them ready for this sunset that's going to happen. You're able to use everything by putting the Bat Connect in there. And oh, by the way, Mrs. Jones, do you realize that we have this new doorbell that we can also add to your system for whatever you decide? And oh, Mrs. Jones, Would you like to be able to put your lights on a timer, maybe do some scheduling, maybe do some garage door control? We can now offer that all to them, a nice upsell opportunity with the Bat Connect. Okay. So we'll talk more about video, we'll talk more about home automation, we'll talk about compatibility, and we'll talk about the ability really to reduce truck rolls with the Bat Connect with our new AlulaConnect web portal. Okay? So things like code management, looking at the panel's history buffer, zone naming. Traditionally, you're rolling a truck out there to do this and dragging a laptop with you for a direct connect. Those days are over with Alula.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the upgrade to video and automation. If you're able to add those features to a legacy account, you're adding to your own RMR, you're adding to the customer experience, and for that matter, we're actually going to give you a bigger rebate in our sunset program when you add those services. So this is really the way to go about solving this sunset problem. You're not just there to replace a radio, you're there to put in a doorbell, to give them video capabilities, to give them home automation, and oh, by the way, I fixed your radio while I was here, and it's going to last for the next 20 years. That's the way to think about it, and Bat Connect lets you make that happen. Chris, you mentioned going into some of the specific advantages of these upgrades we just talked about that you can do with the Bat Connect to these legacy systems. First, let's look at that interface because that's what the customers can be looking at every day.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about this with Connect Plus. So really, I'm not going to rehash a lot of what we went over, but everything that applied to the Connect Plus, the consistent user interface. If you know how to do the app, you know how to do the touchscreen, that also applies to the Bat Connect. So they might have that keypad, that old Honeywell DSC keypad, starting to get a little yellow on the wall, that hardwired keypad. We can get them into a modern-looking touchscreen without having to swap out the panel. And so it's a great upsell opportunity. Do you need the touchscreen? Absolutely, you don't need it. But the things that we have with the touchscreen and the things that are coming, like video on the touchscreen, will be here pretty soon. A great opportunity for you to get in there and have that conversation with the customer, to upgrade that old legacy system. So from the touchscreen and from the app, like we talked about before, it's a consistent interface. I can arm, I can disarm. And even on a compatible Honeywell DSC GE panel, you can bypass, you can get zone status, okay? System status, all from the touchscreen. There's very few third-party integrations that are out there that can do that. I believe Alula is unique, and we're one of the only ones that can do that. We're able to get on the keypad bus of those compatible systems, and we're able to tell the end user, hey, you got a zone open. In addition to doing the video and the home automation. So we are integrated with those legacy systems on the app and the touchscreen. Okay? Like we said before, it's not necessary that you have the touchscreen, but it is a great upsell opportunity.
Yeah, and it'll really change the way your customers interact with their security, home automation, and video systems at home. It's easy to forget that you even have a security system, and maybe you're forgetting to arm and disarm it. But when you have it on your phone, when you have those instant notifications, it really becomes a part of your life. It becomes a sticky product, and you're going to want to continue to have it in your life all the way into the future. So it's great for customer retention. And I just mentioned it, video, definitely a very popular way to upgrade systems. Chris, why don't we talk a little bit about our video platform?
Yeah, video. We've had a video solution, for a couple of years now. One of the great things, like we said, as it pertains to the Bat, is you're able to go in there on that legacy system and for the Connect Plus as well. And actually, you really, if you're just looking for a doorbell solution, maybe the customer, they have no interest in upgrading the system. Maybe it's not a sunset deal, but we're getting bombarded social media with doorbells, from Ring, Simply Safe, whoever. Really, you don't even need a Connect Plus. You don't need a Bat to do video. We do offer a standalone video solution, but since we are talking the Bat, it's a great opportunity to get them into the modern world of, let's say, a doorbell. But we do have, indoor cameras, outdoor cameras, 360 cameras that we can add. And the great thing about the video experience is by user, right? I can say, okay, I want to be able to look at this camera on my system, but I also want to be able to look at my cabin. I want to be able to look at the office cameras. But you know what? I don't want my kids to. Each user can define what camera, the master user, I shouldn't say. The kid can't go in there and say, I want to look at Dad's office. But the person having the master authority user level can assign which camera each user can do. So another great feature of our video. We actually have, so it's cloud-based storage, but we actually have an SD card on each camera that'll give you the ability, if needed be, let's say you lost network for a few hours. You're still going to get those clips either locally, and the idea is when the internet connection comes back, we're going to, once that network communication is established, we'll dump those clips to the server so they will be there. So we do have redundancy built into the cameras as well. So always going to have live look-in capability. We have motion or pixelation changes is really what it is. Clip recording, anywhere from about 4 seconds to all the way about to a minute, depending on the duration of the event. Okay. So great option, especially with the bats, since you're in there having that conversation about upgrading the communicator, taking care of that sunset. Have that conversation, especially with the doorbell, but always have the option, like I said, to go indoor cameras, outdoor cameras. We have the gamut for you.
Yeah, I just want to put a fine point on that doorbell. 1 in 4 households plans to add a video doorbell this year. That's according to Parks Research. That makes it, and the fact that we can do it as a standalone product, you don't need the Bat Connect. It works with the Bat Connect, but you can just put in that doorbell. And that makes it a great Trojan horse for you to get into that customer, to get into that account. Go in there, put that doorbell on. Now they're using the app. Now they're seeing it, and suddenly they're going to come back to you and say, you know what, I'd like some sensors for my windows. I'd like to do some home automation. Can you help me with my thermostat? Can you help me with my lights? Suddenly you're putting in a full system for that customer. So, start out with the doorbell, and you'll find that it really pays some dividends. So, very exciting product. Kind of a once-in-a-generation opportunity where we're seeing people all across the country replacing those old dumb doorbells with smart doorbells. It's happening this year, and now is your opportunity to take advantage of it and win new business. Talked about that Bat Connect. Chris, why don't you talk a little bit about why it is so important and why it is such a game changer for the industry?
Yeah, so just high level over it is a universal communicator. I was doing a little research on kind of what our competitors are doing, and I was kind of blown away by the amount of radios that you might have to stock on your truck, van, whatever, to service a lot of the panels that are out there. With the Bat Connect, you really can just stock one radio, and it's going to handle just about every situation that you could run into. Okay, we'll get into the specifics of panel compatibility here in a second, but really the idea is, one radio on the truck will solve the majority of your problems. Depending on the Honeywell panel that you have, if you went the Honeywell route, you might have to carry 5, 6, 7 radios. Same thing with Alarm.com. So that there are other universal communicators out there, but they're kind of few and far between. I think you'll see with the features that we have with the touchscreen, the video, the home automation, the consistent app experience, really, really hard to beat this product offering. Let's talk a little bit about the broad panel compatibility. When we talk about compatibility, I usually, when a dealer calls and asks me, and they go, are you compatible with brand X? And I say, what are you trying to do? Okay. If you want the fully integrated app experience where I'm not talking home automation, I'm talking video, not talking video, because you can do that with any panel that's out there. That's really not panel specific. But if I want to be able to zone bypass, I want to be able to get system status, I want to be able to program it remotely from the AlulaConnect portal, okay, that's when we really talk about, okay, here's the Honeywell panels that are compatible. But if you're just interested in solving that sunset issue, and we just need to forward signals to the central station and just do a basic arm and disarm via key switch, And oh, by the way, yes, you can do video and home automation. We work with anybody that communicates, the panel-wise, that communicates tip and ring with contact ID. We're soon going to offer SIA support, but remember, any panel on tip and ring, contact ID, we can forward signals to the central station, we can give them video, home automation, we can have the touchscreen experience, and the unified app experience. Okay? It's just, when we say Honeywell, DSC, Interlogix, and NAPCO, that's the full-blown, if you will, app experience, full compatibility. And we do always have the current compatibility list in the BAT Connect install manual. Right now, today we are compatible with the Honeywell Vista series, Vista 15, 20, 21 IP, and the SafeWatch 3000 for the full app experience. DSC, it's pretty much the Power series. Okay? Soon will be Interlogix Networks, Concord, and NAPCO Gemini series. Okay? So once again, when we say compatibility, ask yourself a couple of questions. What are you trying to do? If it's just simply, hey, I need to forward signals to the central station, well, really then the compatibility list goes out the window, and it's anybody on tip and ring with contact ID. Okay? Now, if it is one of those couple other features here, just moving down the slide to like point number 3 where we say auto bus detection saves time, that would be one of those panels on the compatibility list. So for instance, Honeywell Vista. Great thing about the Honeywell Vista is once you power up the Vista after you've hooked up the BAT Connect, you don't really need to do anything as the installer because the BAT Connect goes in and programs what it needs to program. If anybody on the call today has used our legacy BAT LTE or BAT Wi-Fi, which by the way is still available, still a viable product, the installer had to go in and program a couple of things. Okay? Honeywell, you had to go in and program maybe half a dozen things. On DSC, you had to do about 8, 9, 10 things. Not a terrible pain, but you still had to do it. With the auto bus detection, basically the BAT goes in and programs what it needs to program. So it speeds up your installation time. Okay. We mentioned the low current. It only draws 100 milliamps, so the odds of having to add a power supply are practically non-existent.
Yeah, Chris, I can say me and you have worked together a couple times on installing these BAT Connects, once on a Honeywell Vista and then also on a DSC. And you're absolutely right. Once you power that thing up, it's just amazing. It's like a wizard in there that just does all the programming for you, and you're just kind of watching it go. So it does the work for you.
Absolutely.
So how do we accomplish that? Well, it's all about what we got inside. So Chris, like we did with the Connect Plus, can you kind of show us how this machine works?
Yeah, let's take a tour around the BAT Connect. We won't get too technical here. This slide looks kind of busy, but it's really not too bad. So point number 1, cellular antenna. Okay, you can kind of follow it's kind of vertical up and down there right next to the one, and then it just really just plugs in or snaps onto the motherboard. So I know what probably a couple of you are thinking is, geez, that antenna's inside the enclosure. What if I'm downstairs in a basement? Yes, we do have remote antennas available. Okay, got one that we can extend upstairs and one that we can extend. Just getting it out of the enclosure helps a little bit too. But if you're not stuck down in the basement or in the electrical, the utility closet, should be okay. Like we said before, with Category M1, you do get that better range. But yeah, if you're downstairs, and underneath 2 floors of concrete in a commercial application, you're probably going to need some sort of a cellular antenna. And we haven't mentioned this before, but you don't have to use the cellular. We should have mentioned this earlier, my bad, but we have triple path communication. Slot number 12 on the bottom, we'll jump ahead a little bit. You have an Ethernet connection built in. We have Wi-Fi built in. So, cellular is there, but worst case scenario, you don't need to use it, but it is there as an option right out of the box. Speaking of the SIM card, now this picture shows the SIM card not in there. Depending on the AT&T or the Verizon model that you order, SIM card will already be in there. You don't need to put that in there, but that's the location for it. So it is either AT&T. So the part number is pretty simple. BAT Connect-V for Verizon, BAT Connect-A for AT&T. Spot number 3 really is about the LED indicator. So if you look underneath to the left, you'll see Ethernet, update, Wi-Fi, cellular, and then over on the right you've got device link, panel bus, power. This is where you do your troubleshooting if need be. Okay, so it's going to tell you, remember we said we are 3 passive communication, Ethernet, Wi-Fi, or cell. So you'll have one of those lit up at a time. It doesn't do all 3 at once. It will always fail over to that. We start out with the least expensive method, right? So if Ethernet's there, it'll use Ethernet. If it's not there, it'll try to use Wi-Fi. If Wi-Fi is not there, it'll flip over to cellular. Notice you got 4 LEDs for your signal strength, so you can measure signal strength. You can get your signal strength remotely on actually the next slide we're going to talk about, our AlulaConnect web portal. So that's another nice tool. But hey, if you're on site as you're the installer, want to make sure you have at least 2 bars there, obviously 4 being optimum. The device link LED, not used at this point, don't worry about it. Panel bus. What we want to see here is solid panel bus LED if you're on one of our compatible, as in, hey, it's on the list, I want the full-blown app experience, right? If you're just doing tip and ring forwarding for Central Station, don't worry about this because you're not going to be hooked up to the panel's keypad bus. If that is blinking, we have a problem. Typically, you got a couple wires crossed maybe, or it's a non-compatible panel. Maybe you hooked it up to a Vista 10, which we're not fully compatible with yet. So you might see something, that might be the cause of that blinking panel bus LED. You want to see that guy solid. Okay? And then obviously we have a power LED. Hey, do we have power for this guy? Speaking of power, you're not going to see a backup battery on the BAT Connect, or really any of the BAT families, because remember, we're getting the power and we're getting the backup battery. Well, we're using the host panel for the backup battery. Okay, so that's why you're not seeing it on the BAT Connect. Slot 4, the Wi-Fi radio. Remember our conversation earlier about the Connect Plus and the touchscreen, how it has the Wi-Fi card that you can add? Well, with the BAT Connect, the Wi-Fi card, if you will, is built in. You don't have to buy it. Okay, so that is for our touchscreen if you choose to add it. And just like with Connect Plus, you can use up to 4 touchscreens with the BAT Connect. Number 5, Z-Wave. We have the option, actually it's the same card that you use for the Connect Plus Z-Wave capability, home automation, same card. We just recently added Z-Wave compatibility for the BAT Connect. So if you want the Z-Wave card, you can add it. That's slot number 5. Slot number 6, it's a cover tamper. Okay? If the cover of the BAT's open, you'll get a cover tamper condition. Okay? We have cover tamper, and then if you look at 7, we've also got wall tamper. So if you screw this thing down, don't screw it too tight because you might break the seal, at least the center screw, number 7. You might break the seal, which would cause a wall tamper condition, but both of those are built into the BAT Connect. So you got cover tamper, wall tamper, which by the way, those can be disabled remotely on the AlulaConnect portal. Another nice feature of AlulaConnect. All right, little tour of the terminal strip. Point number 8, depending on the panel that we're hooked up to, is going to determine some of the fine details here. But basically, let's start actually, we'll go right to left. Over on the right side, you've got your tip and ring connection. Depending on the panel, you may or may not need this. Honeywell Vista Series, nice feature here. You don't need tip and ring. We're able to get what we need off of the keypad bus. But for just about every other panel that's out there, even DSC, even though it's on the compatibility list, we need tip and ring. Okay, so bottom line, Honeywell Vista Series, 4 wires. Okay, tip and ring and power and ground, and you're up and running, ready to go. DSC on our compatible list, the power series, tip and ring, and then power, ground, and then your bus connection. So it's a 6-wire connection. Okay. Obviously, for those panels that we're just doing signal forwarding to, it's 4 wires, power and ground because we're going to power it off the host panel, and then tip and ring. So G in, Y in, that's your data bus communication depending on what panel you're hooked up to. So your Honeywell and your DSC, you've got data in, data out to the Honeywell keypad bus, the DSC keypad bus, soon to be the GE bus, and the NAPCO bus. PC Link, this is a future feature that we're going to add for you, but it's going to be a nice feature when it's available. DSC panels, we're going to give you the ability to use the PC Link upload-download software, and we're actually going to give you that for Honeywell. We're going to give it for you GE and NAPCO as well, coming soon. But in order to do PC Link, there's a special cable that we use, and that will allow you to remotely program using PC Link from off-site. If you wanted to drag a laptop, do a direct connect, I guess you could do that too. But remember, I think we talked about it before, and I'll mention it again. For a lot of what you're going to probably want to do remotely, you might not need the Honeywell Compass software or the PC Link software, because we can do code management, we can pull the history buffer, and we can do our zone naming all from AlulaConnect. Okay? Now, can we change entry delay time on the DSC panel from AlulaConnect? No. Okay? There you would use your PC Link software or your Compass software. All right, number 12, lower right corner, like we said before, we're triple path, so there's our Ethernet connection, our Ethernet port. And 13 is a WPS button. We talked about having Wi-Fi as well, right? Part of our three paths. Nice thing about the WPS is, yes, we have a WPS button where you can pair with the customer's router on site. But let's say you had the cell connection up and running or the Ethernet connection up and running. You can remotely on AlulaConnect type in those Wi-Fi credentials if for whatever reason, like we talked before, a customer changes their password, they get a new router. You can pair it remotely on the AlulaConnect web portal, Kevin, which I think is coming up next.
It is, but just real quick, I want to add that I've installed a couple of these with you, Chris. It is super easy, but if you run into any problems, we've got ample resources available. All you have to do is go to youtube.com/Alula. You will find a ton of install videos there that will help you with whatever panel you're working on and whatever trouble you might accidentally run into. And then I'm also going to send you to alula.net/knowledge-base. Here's where you can find all of the information you need on Alula products. We've got a thorough back connect section. It talks about the wiring for Honeywell Vista. It talks about the wiring for DSC. It talks about how you can verify that your install was done correctly. It's got video tutorials. It's got step guides. However you want to get the information, it's there for you. So we're there to help you get these things put in as smoothly and efficiently as possible. And one of the ways we do that is with our partner portal, AlulaConnect. Chris, you brought it up a couple times. This is a really exciting thing that really helps the businesses of our partners, makes it more efficient, and eliminates truck rolls. Tell us a little bit about AlulaConnect.
Yeah, let's try to bring it all home here and tie it all together. So like I said, Kevin, you heard me mention it here and there, but basically, whether it's a Connect Plus or a BAT Connect, a BAT LTE, a BAT Wi-Fi, really your first interaction should be with the AlulaConnect portal. Okay. Now, some on the call may be used to our alarm dealer portal. It's still out there. It's still up and running, but really you want to start using AlulaConnect to take advantage of the full capability that it can give you, especially with a BAT Connect. If you're using Alarm Dealer and you're trying to get at a BAT Connect, there's just not the features that are there. For instance, code management. Okay? You couldn't do code management from the old Alarm Dealer portal for a BAT Connect. You got to be on AlulaConnect. Okay, so let's start using that, because you can do things like code management on your, well, first things first. You need to get the panel, if it's a Connect Plus or a BAT Connect, you need to get it registered really before anything can happen. So this is going to be the first point of contact for you, probably on any install, is you go to AlulaConnect, you enter the MAC address and what we call the CRC number. Once you do that, you're up and running. And then when you power up the Connect Plus or when you power up the BAT Connect, it can fully function. So if you don't do that step first, you're going to be dead in the water until it happens. Okay, you haven't broken anything. It's just that your Connect Plus panel is not going to come online, at least with the app and the web browser. And the BAT Connect won't be fully functional until you register either a Connect Plus or BAT Connect. So that's step one. After it makes its initial communication, because what happens, especially with a Connect Plus, once you power up a Connect Plus, it reaches out to Alula servers and says, okay, I'm here. And if that initial registration hasn't happened, it can't go any further. right? So you're kind of dead in your tracks. But once that step has happened, if you take a look at the picture, we talked about how the web browser scales very nicely. I think there's an iPhone there. And you're able to do the same thing on the iPhone or an Android that you are on the web browser. So you don't have to drag your laptop out there to do a direct connect. There's really no direct connect to do on a Connect Plus or on a BAT. It's all done from the browser or from the installer app if it's a Connect Plus. Okay? But really, the idea here is we're limiting truck rolls. With a Connect Plus, with a BAT Connect, just about everything you need to do could be done remotely. And it's really at a glance, what's going on. If it were a Connect Plus and you hit the overview screen, it's going to tell you, is my panel in trouble? You can silence trouble beeps. Is the chime on? Just at a glance what's going on. And then, of course, you can get in and program every programming functionality, that you might need. Hey, I want to give extended delay on a gate door. No need to do a truck roll for that. I want to mail them a key fob. No need to roll a truck to do that. Put that serial number in remotely, mail them the key fob, customer calls you up and says, I got it, and all you do is activate it on the web browser. Okay? So remote management, reduce truck rolls, and register my Connect Plus or my BAT Connect.
Chris, thank you so much. That was an extremely smart and thorough overview. You could not ask for a better explanation of what makes Alula different in the marketplace and why it is vital to switch over to Alula. If you're not using it already, we've got demo programs to let you try the system out. And I think we're very confident that once you use it, you'll see what's different about it and why it should be core to your business. If you need any additional information on the Connect family of products, you can find that at alula.net/connect/, or you could call us at 1-888-88-ALULA. Thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to doing business with you. Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this supersized edition of the Alula webinar. Before we get started with the questions, I'm just going to run through some customer appreciation in the form of shout-outs. From A to Z, we've got Anna Marie, Bruce, Chris, Elizabeth, Freddie, Jasper, Joe, John, Kyle, Lenny, Paul, Sabine, Scott, Shumka, Steve, Wayne, Warren, and my favorite, Zeta. That's, of course, not all of you. We've got a full house today, so sorry I can't get to all of you, but we'll definitely try to give you a shout-out on a future webinar if I didn't get you this time. All right, let's start from the top. We got a question from Kyle Harding. Based on this picture here, can the BAT Connect then work on NAPCO, ITI, GE, etc., so all the systems of the previous RE927 works with? What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, actually, whether you know it or not, great question about the old well, not the old, they're still available, but basically, so the short answer is yes, and I'll dig a little deeper. We actually built the BAT Connect off of the 927, okay, the old IGM radio. It's still available, but the BAT Connect was actually based off of that radio. So the compatibility list almost mirrors what you're going to find with the 927. And I'll get deeper here on the compatibility list in a second, but I do want to point out, and it's important to know, we probably have a lot of people on the call today that use the BAT LTE and the BAT Wi-Fi. Don't assume that the full compatibility list, we talked earlier about the full compatibility list in the webinar. It kind of depends on what you want to do. It's a different list depending on what you're trying to do. So the full app experience as far as, hey, I can zone bypass and I get full system status and I get user code management on the app and on AlulaConnect, there we are pretty panel specific, right? And that's going to be right now Vista 15, 20, 21 IP, SafeWatch 3000, DSC, the Power Series as in not Neo, okay? We do have compatibility, remember, for tip and ring, generic key switch arm, disarm, video, and home automation for anybody. So, I like to hammer this point home that, it's important to understand what each panel can and cannot do. But I think for the majority of what you're trying to do, which is basically, hey, I need signals to go to the central station. Can I do video? Can I do home automation? And can I arm and disarm? We're able to give you that on just about every panel out there, assuming it's contact ID, soon to be SIA, in tip and ring. Okay, what about GE? Well, we've probably all heard what's happened with Interlogix, unfortunately. We are stepping up, and I wrote down a couple of points as we were going through and made a couple misquotes. I did not mention the Simon panel. We have big plans for the Simon panel. We're actually coming out with very soon a BatConnect XT, as in Simon XT. So we are adding Simon capability. Earlier I said we're adding Concord, which we are, and networks, but I forgot to mention Simon. I think Simon will actually hit first. But yes, we are planning on adding Concord and networks. Now when I say compatibility, I'm not going to rehash what I've been saying all day, but the bus compatibility is what I'm talking about for those panels. Like today, a Concord would work with video, home automation, forward signals to the central station, and a generic arm and disarm app. That would work for those capabilities. But when we talk about the full integration, right? So let me rehash and go over it again. Vista series, Vista 15, 20, 21 IP, SafeWatch 3000, pretty much all of the DSC Power series, but not the Neo. Soon to be, we're looking at hopefully first quarter for GE networks. Sorry, GE. I'm actually an old GE guy, so that terminology is still stuck in my head. But Interlogix networks, Interlogix Concord, and then now you'll probably see before those two Interlogix Simon support, and that'll be a separate radio just because Simon, those that have used it, Simon doesn't have a keypad bus, so we're building our separate radio for the Simon. NAPCO support, probably be the last one to hit for the Gemini series, probably looking into early 2020, but don't have a definitive date for that one yet, just really a quarter for you, sometime first quarter, hopefully, of next year. How's that,
Chris,
Kevin,
you talked about...
sorry, guys. I was just going to say... Go ahead.
No, please finish.
I was going to say, how's that for a long-winded answer that just became longer?
Well, we're about to expand on this topic, Chris, because you mentioned Interlogix, of course, and Jack Liberi has a question. He wants to know about Interlogix alternative options. So what can you tell us about what we can do for dealers who are in this situation where they just found out that their provider is not going to be around after this year? So what are we doing for those dealers to help bring them over to our giving them an option?
Yeah, great question, and thanks for asking it, because we're actually internally talking a lot about this. How can we help the dealers out there? So we're going to come up with some pretty aggressive pricing on the Connect Plus to help our dealer base out there with Interlogix. But let's dig a little deeper technically how we can play with those Interlogix panels. I mentioned the BAT, right? But if you're thinking about a takeover, if you will, of a Concord, of a networks, really any Interlogix panel, as far as the wireless goes, the Connect Plus is a great option for you because of the translator card. You put that translator card and you set it to Interlogix protocol, we can go in there and instantly start talking to all of those devices. Now, just kind of a little personal note for you. I was, I mentioned I'm an old GE guy. I started at ITI way back when, was there for about 13 years. When I came to Alula last year and they put a Connect Plus in front of me and I played with it for a couple hours, I went, wow, this is just like a Concord. And it's not the same thing, but if you were to take a Concord and a Connect Plus side by side, you'd see a lot of similarities. They're both 96 ohms. So a lot of the engineering talent that built the Concord, that built the Simon panel, work at Alula. So you'll see a lot of similarities there. But I would say that as far as the Connect Plus goes, the biggest thing would be your ability to put that translator card in there and instantly take over the wireless devices. If they had hardwire, network Concord, it's combo panel, you can do hardwire wireless. We have an 8-zone translator card for hardwire, so we're able to instantly take over those hardwired zones. If you have a Alpha keypad, fixed English keypad on the wall, networks, Concord. The touch screen, the slimline touch screen, which is our latest offering, allows you to utilize the wire run that's already there. So, so you'll have a 4-wire data bus on Concord, 3 wires on the networks panel. We just need 2 of those. We're power and ground. The point is, we have a connector built into the slimline where you can just screw it into the screw terminal, on the wall side and down at the, wherever down near the panel. Hopefully, there's an outlet near there. And you just do a little splicing with the power supply, and you can use that existing wire run. Okay, does the touchscreen have its own power supply? And do I need to utilize the wire? No, you don't. You could use our transformer if it came with it. But if we're talking about swapping out those hardwired keypads with the touchscreen, we make that pretty easy too. Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing would be on the Connect Plus side, the ability to add that translator, either the hardwired translator or the wireless translator, and we can instantly take over a networks panel, Concord panel, get them the integrated app, Z-Wave, all the things that we talked about.
Yeah, and if you are primarily Interlogix installer, you're going to want to check out our Rescue rebate program. We just launched it this week in response to market conditions to help our partners with this problem. So I posted a link in the chat. You can click through there, but it's alula.net/resources/Interlogix-rebate. All right, moving on to another question. Steve Mills asks, can the camera share and send video to a central station?
Okay, short answer, not yet. We are working on video verification. We're close. I would, don't quote me an exact timetable here, but hopefully by late winter next year, we should see we should see video verification. But yes, we're actively working on video verification, just don't have it quite yet. So stay tuned on that one.
Great. Question comes in from Zeta. If power goes out, how long does the backup battery last in the Connect Plus? And what happens if the internet modem, just to finish up, what happens if the internet modem does not have a UPS on it? Is power lost anyway?
Yeah, so I'm assuming we're talking Connect Plus here. Yeah, so the Connect Plus, that battery is it's UL, it's 24 hours. So at a minimum, we'll get 24 hours. If the siren's not constantly going off, probably get more than that, but it is UL certified, 24-hour backup battery. Internet goes down. That's one of the reasons. So short answer is if they were on internet and that was the only communication method, and they didn't have a UPS uninterrupted power supply, yeah, we'd lose the connection. But remember, you can go sell. Now, I was going to say Wi-Fi, but I get it. If you lose internet, you're losing your Wi-Fi as well. But you do have that cellular option as well. So don't forget about that.
We're all about options here at Alula. Okay, let's go to Kyle Harding. So you have to choose, do you have to choose between Wi-Fi communications to central station if needed and the Wi-Fi card specific to the touchpad?
Yeah, great. I was looking at that in the chat too. I know there's a little confusion out there about that, so let me spend a little bit of time talking about it. I guess the answer kind of depends. Let me revisit this again. So there's the two big spots. There's two big spots on the Connect Plus. It can either be cellular or one of the Wi-Fi cards. We don't see it often, but you could go, okay, I want to use a touchscreen, which, okay, then you do need the Wi-Fi card dedicated for the touchscreen, but you still have another slot available. You could put two Wi-Fi cards in there, one for the communication to central station / our servers. Now, what would you lose? You'd lose cellular, okay? So it's kind of depending on what you want to do. So if you always want to have a cellular option, then yes, you do have one spot left. And whether that's the Wi-Fi for the touchscreen or the Wi-Fi for the central station / server communication. But remember, you got an Ethernet connection too, and that's kind of what I harp on a lot. If you can get an Ethernet connection to the panel, do it. Now, going forward, there's been a lot of discussion, and you will see this change, that we are going to either combine that capability in the card or make a change to the motherboard on the Connect Plus, where you're able to add just one card and do both, but we're not quite there right yet, okay? So it's, if you were going to go cellular, that would take up one of the slots. You got one slot left for either Wi-Fi for touchscreen or Wi-Fi for central station / server communication. But stay tuned on that one. That is changing in the future.
That's right. Alula is always innovating. So stay tuned. We're adding a lot of capabilities. Speaking of which, Sunil asks, do we have any outdoor wireless sirens available?
Okay, I'm going to skirt around the answer just for a second. We have indoor sirens available, Bluetooth and our 433. We are very, very close to releasing a combo outdoor siren / strobe module, which is really cool. It's just not officially released yet. It's in the catalog, believe it or not. But as of today, that is not released yet. I can't imagine it's going to be more than a month or so before you will see an outdoor siren / strobe that either runs on 12 volts or battery. So we're close on that guy. Stay tuned.
Chris, you're breaking all kinds of news today. I hope you cleared this with our bosses before you started talking.
It's in the catalog. I think I can talk about that guy.
All righty. Tim Savage says, he says, most of our residential clients are looking for the wow factor. No real question there, but I just like the way he put it. And Chris, maybe you could talk a little bit about what's the most wow factor part of the Alula platform?
Yeah, I'm a little biased on this one. I really like Z-Wave. I've been doing Z-Wave for a lot of years, going back to my old days with ITI and UTC GE. But the ability, especially what's different, I think, about our app solution as it pertains to Z-Wave is the scenes that you can create. I've got, we sell a great outdoor motion detector. I've got it aimed at the driveway. I don't really use it for intrusion. I just want to know that somebody's there. I have that turn on a Z-Wave light. I've got a Z-Wave module in my entryway, just the way my garage doors are. I got a detached garage. I can't see them. So I'm a little lazy at times, and I don't want to walk to my keypad to let me know that it's open. I have Z-Wave lights come on and stay on until the garage door gets shut. So the options to do scene creation like that. Another thing I use Z-Wave for that I think is a wow factor for me. My house was built in 1930. I have 1930s wiring. Long story short, for my bathroom fan and light, I did not have two switches, one for the light, one for the fan. I did a little splicing for the fan and my key fob that sits in my bathroom. I press a button one time, it turns the bathroom fan on. I hit it again, it turns it off. So the ability to do things like that with our scenes is kind of cool. Some of the stuff you're not going to do every day, but for me, the wow factor is Z-Wave. It's also the video factor. The Doorbell and the indoor and outdoor cameras we have. That's typically when I'm showing a customer the app. I kind of like to lead with that. And the other cool thing is the customization on the app. I have all my cameras. That's the first thing I see. And I think for a lot of the end users, what they're going to use the app for is I want to look at my cameras right away. Look at the dog, look at the kids, look at the driveway, look at whatever. You can customize what you see when you first log into the app. The other thing I really like using the app for, and another wow factor thing, and we didn't talk too much about all of our wonderful wireless devices that we have at Alula, but one of the great ones that we have is a little water detector / high temp, low temp. We call that the Trident. It's a 3-zone in one device. It actually floats. So if you get a flood somewhere, it'll float away. But the other thing that it does for you on the app, it tells you what the temperature is. So I have that on my home screen on the app. It's covering the flood detection. It's doing high temp, low temp. But when I log into the app, I travel a lot in this position, and I want to know what the temperature is in the house. Yeah, I could get a Z-Wave thermostat and do it that way, which is another great idea, by the way. But that little device tells me what the temperature is. So I know in the basement, I got one of those devices in the basement, but it's 64. And out the garage, it's whatever, depending on the time of the year. We're in Minnesota. It's nice for me to be able to tell, do I need to click on the thermostat, especially out in the garage, because I got a little gas heater out there that's hooked up to a Z-Wave thermostat. And I can, there's a lot of different ways you can go. I could automate that where I could say, hey, if the temperature drops below, I don't want to pay an arm and leg to heat my garage, but in the wintertime, I just don't want things to freeze. So I say, okay, temperature drops below 40, kick the thermostat in until it hits 45. So wow factor, I think, is great with the home automation as well as some of our devices and also the video.
Those are some great ideas, Chris. I'm actually going to look to implement a few of those myself at home now that you've given me the idea there. So
yeah, the bathroom one's kind of weird, I admit, but
that one is going to be unique to you.
Yeah.
You mentioned apps. We got a quick question about apps here. Why is there no Android installer app as there is on iOS?
Yeah, you know, I can't give you the 100% exact answer. Is the answer that when I've asked about this, it's the way the Bluetooth works, the interaction, it's just not possible for us to do it. And I think the other reason that it doesn't work is because we knew when we launched the AlulaConnect portal that you wouldn't need it anymore. Because the AlulaConnect portal, we kind of touched on this a little bit after the question was asked, but it scales down really nice on a smartphone. So you really don't need the installer app anymore if you're using AlulaConnect. Instead of opening up the app, just go to the web browser. You can do you can actually do more on the web browser than you can do on the app. So I wouldn't lose too much sleep about if you're an Android person on the conference today. Just go to AlulaConnect on your smartphone. You can do everything you need to do right there and more than you could do from the iOS app.
Yeah, just, AlulaConnect.com, make that a button on your smartphone, on your home screen, and now you got your app. It's that easy. Kyle has a great question. Hadn't heard this one before. Looking forward to your answer. He says, what about people not wanting the panel in the area where the router is based on the sounds coming from the panel? You guys just mentioned other speakers to be placed elsewhere. I assume you can shut off sound at the panel and strictly go through the Bluetooth speaker elsewhere possibly. So basically, we talk about that IP first connection. That means you're going to put your hub near your router. In my case, of course, the router's in the TV room. What if I don't want to hear alert noises when I'm watching TV? What do we do about that, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Did the same thing at my house, had the same concern. And even if a different scenario would be, we're not an all-in-one unit like some of our competitors, as in the touchscreen's not built into the panel. The siren's not built in. Well, there is a siren in there. My point is, yes, you can turn all that off. My panel's totally silent. I've got a couple of our 433 megahertz sirens. I get every panel beep that I want. I got one in the garage. I got one in the living room. Why draw attention to the panel with noise? So yes, you can silence, you can adjust the volume, but for me, I've always done this even back when I was an ITI guy doing the Simon panel. I just shut it up. Have it make no noise, which you can do, and by the way, you can do that remotely on AlulaConnect or from the iOS app. So yeah, great point. I would make it, I'd make it totally silent. Why draw attention to it? Get a couple, one, we do have, we got the Bluetooth sirens, we've got our cryptic sirens. Not that I'm pushing our siren over the Bluetooth because they're both made by Alula, but what you'll find, you'll have a little bit more flexibility with the 433 megahertz cryptic siren, just because it has a backup battery in it. The Bluetooth one is just battery powered, not AC. So there's a little bit of advantage to the 433 one. There's LED lights on the 433. So anytime there's any kind of activity, sensor activity, you'll see the light flash. You get arming beeps, but also LED blinks, if you will. So you can look at the siren, and if it's red, you got a problem. I mean, you don't know what the problem is. You got to go to the touchscreen for that or the app. But there's some logistics built into it that the Bluetooth doesn't have. And by the way, you can only use one Bluetooth siren. You can use up to 8 of the 433 sirens. And like we talked about before, soon to be an outdoor siren / strobe. So make that panel silent if you want to. Like I said, I think it's a great idea. And get your beeping elsewhere. The touch screens will beep if you wanted to go that route too. If you didn't, maybe they had 4 touch screens and another siren might be overkill. Touch screens will give you volume as well. You can silence those. You can adjust the volume. It's a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, I've got my panel set on silent too, because otherwise my dog would hate me. And speaking of things that are coming soon, Mike Morano has a great question. To get the video on the touchscreen, is this a firmware update, or how is that? How are we going to make that possible? You there, Chris? Chris, you still there? Looks like we may have lost Chris, so I'll answer that question. We're going to push a firmware update, so you're not going to have to do anything to get that video on the touch screen. It's just going to happen automatically for you. We've got some questions about pricing. We will get in touch with you. We will have someone get in touch with you to talk about pricing. And also some questions about how to get this presentation if you came in late or weren't able to stay the whole time. We will be sending the recording of this out, but you can also find it on youtube.com/Alula. So please do stay tuned. We'll make sure that you're able to get that access. Alrighty, that'll do it for today. Your time's important, and we want to make sure you guys are able to get back to work. So if you have any other questions or need any more information, please go to alula.net/connect or go to 1-888-88-ALULA. Thank you all for tuning in, and be here for the next Alula webinar. Thanks. Bye.
That does conclude today's webinar. We thank you all for your participation.